Am I the jerk for not taking my future mother-in-law to the bridal appointment? I am looking for advice on how to kindly explain to my future mother-in-law why she was not invited to my bridal appointment. I went to a sample sale back in December and wound up buying the first dress I tried on. My 2 sisters and my mother were in the entourage. The dress was 60% off and was what I was looking for. It was simple, had no lace, no beading, no mesh, and was fit and flare with a train, so it was a no-brainer that it was the one. My expectations were low as I was worried there would not be a sample gown that would fit me, but this dress was it. Now onto my future mother-in-law. She has been so bitter this entire planning process and makes a face of disgust every time we show her our wedding plans. She hates the colors, the venue, the food, and the photographer. You name it, she will find something about it that she does not like. I hate what I see when I look in the mirror, so I was not mentally prepared for her inevitable criticisms of the dress, as in my opinion, it is in a way a criticism of my body. My fiancé disagreed and said she would never be so harsh about my looks, but I do not feel that way. She would not have liked the experience. She would have talked me out of this dress. My future mother-in-law is not one to buy something on the spot. She would have wanted me to go home and think on it before buying it. This is practical, but not how the sample sale worked, as you had to say yes on the spot, otherwise it would go to another bride. She also would not have been able to see my vision, as the dress still needed alterations. For these reasons, I knew taking her along to the appointment would have resulted in tears, confusion, and not finding a dress. I swear I intended to take her to the next shopping trip, which wound up not being necessary, and if she had not started giving me the silent treatment, I was going to take her to a bridal fitting. Now here is where I might be the asshole. Since getting the dress without her present, her negative comments have gotten much worse, and I started getting my guard up as soon as we start talking about the wedding with her. It is to the point where I cannot even handle constructive criticism from her because I am in full fight or flight mode when she is around. I am honestly not sure who is giving who the silent treatment at this point, but we have stopped talking to each other. Tomorrow we are supposed to go have a talk with my fiancé present, and I need to explain to her with a calm head why things have changed between us. I feel like this all could have been avoided if she had just come to the bridal appointment in the first place, and if I had a spine, I could have just ignored her comments and bought the dress anyway. Am I the asshole? Your actions were justified. Why would you take someone that critical and negative along to anything to do with your wedding? If your fiancé isn't defending you and telling her to back off now, he won't do it after you're married. You need people you trust and who support you during this special time. Am I the jerk for no longer spending parenting time at my dad's because I was expected to share a room with my younger stepbrother? My parents divorced when I was 4 years old. My memory of them together is really fuzzy, and the normal for me is living between my mother's house and my father's house. My mother's house always felt more like home to me, perhaps because we lived with my grandparents, and I always loved living with them. I am really close to my grandparents. I never hated going to my father's house, and we were close until the COVID pandemic happened. My father introduced me to his girlfriend in December 2020, and they got married in May 2021. She has 3 children. Her oldest child is 10 years old, her middle child is 7 years old, and her youngest child is 5 years old. The youngest child is a boy, and the other 2 are girls. When we all moved in together, her oldest child and I got our own rooms, while the younger 2 children shared a room. A few months ago, my father and his wife were really annoyed because the 7-year-old hates sharing with the 5-year-old. They do not get along at all, and the 7-year-old does not like how clingy the 5-year-old is. The 5-year-old gets nightmares and wants to share a bed and other things, but not with the adults. He wants to share with his sister and has also asked me a few times. Because the girls do not get along, and because the 10-year-old girl is at an age where sharing with a brother might be awkward, my father told me he wanted me and his stepson to share a room. He laid out the expectation that I be there for my stepbrother during nightmares, and to really invest in being a good brother, because his stepson is far more affectionate and longing for closeness that neither of his sisters give him. I told my father I was not okay with any of that, and I did not want to share a room with his stepson or be responsible for a closeness I do not want. He told me I had no choice, and that I should want a closeness because we are family, and I have the chance to have a brother. The rest of that week, his stepson was in my former room and tried climbing into my bed every night. He would wake up once I went to bed, as he is a really light sleeper, and would chat my ear off. 2 years ago, I was given the choice to stay at either parent's house more permanently. With the changes at my father's house, I decided to stay with my mother and not go to my father's house for parenting time anymore. My father did not like it, but he thought I would come back around. I still have not been there since. My father's wife is furious because her son hates being on his own in the room all the time. She berated me really badly for that, and my mother told her to never contact me again when she heard it. My father told me I need to stop acting like this and said I came across as very entitled and selfish. Am I the asshole? A 15-year-old and a 5-year-old sharing a room is a nightmare. What about the difference in bedtime and content maturity? I see why the situation is difficult, but this wouldn't be a solution. just a new set of problems. It's not your job to parent your dad's stepchild. He should be focusing on parenting you. Am I the jerk for not giving my deceased child's belongings away? I am a 54-year-old man and have 3 children. Lisa, who is 28 years old, Eric, who is 26 years old, and Arwen, who was 16 years old. In April, Arwen unfortunately passed away in a motor vehicle collision. I have a very strained relationship with Arwen's mother. We separated a long time ago, and a few years ago, she gave me full custody of him because she wanted to concentrate on her new relationship. She has 2 more children, who are 10 and 6 years old. Arwen did not leave much behind when he passed away. His car was totaled, and what remained were his Apple phone, laptop, watch, and PlayStation 5 there. All his things are in his room, untouched. Sometimes I go through his phone just to take a glimpse of his life that ended too soon and too tragically. Arwen was very close with Lisa and Eric. A few weeks after he passed away, they came over. I offered them the opportunity to take some of his belongings. They picked some shirts and some hoodies. Eric also took his sneakers since they shared a love for brand name sneakers and had the same shoe size. When Arwen's mother found out about it, she contacted me to ask if she could take some of his belongings as well. I was very skeptical about it since she never had a good relationship with Arwen, but I let her come over anyway. She went through the remaining items and asked if she could take his gadgets. I told her no. Maybe it is selfish of me, but I would like to keep all the memories preserved. His laptop has his high school paper draft that he never finished. His phone has pictures of him smiling and his texts to his friends. His PlayStation account has all his achievements in computer games. She became visibly upset and said that I was being unfair and selfish and that she could use his gadgets. I told her that it was impossible to use them because she would need to log out of his Apple ID account first, and no one knows the password anymore. She became even more upset and accused me of hoarding his things. I told her that she could pick something else, such as some of his school awards or whatever she wanted. She said that I was being unfair and called me an asshole. Now I am left wondering if I actually am one. Holy crap, she literally came to her dead son's room to scavenge for electronics for herself and her new kids. You are not to blame. She sounds incredibly selfish. You want to preserve the memories on his electronics, and she just wants to take them. Shut that down. You have enough real things to deal with without worrying about what a vulture like this thinks. Am I the jerk for not following my neighborhood's tradition? I, a 25-year-old female, have just moved into a neighborhood a couple of weeks ago, and so far, it has been very peaceful. From the neighbors that have come up to me, everyone has been very friendly and welcoming, which I really appreciate since I am not from around the town. I have noticed that some neighbors have been having frequent parties the last couple of weeks, but I chalked it up to celebrations since I know one neighbor's daughter just graduated high school, and July 4th is coming up. I have been to some of these parties to get to know the other neighbors better, and one person who really stands out to me is this one neighbor, Melinda, not her actual name. At a neighbor's party, she came up to me and introduced herself, and we talked for a while. This is when I learned about the newest neighbor party. Apparently, the newest neighbor is supposed to throw a grand party showing off their home and entertain the neighborhood as a whole thing. Melinda told me since I was the newest neighbor, it was my duty to host the party. I thought Melinda was joking when she told me this, as it did not make sense to me, and I laughed. This seemed to have made Melinda a little angry, as she said she was serious, and it was a tradition in the neighborhood, and that I had 2 weeks to host a party. This was 2 weeks ago. Yesterday was the day I was supposed to do this tradition, but I happily stayed in bed. Melinda and a couple of neighbors came and rang the doorbell, but I ignored them and enjoyed binge-watching childhood shows. I decided to go outside today, and Melinda came up to me furious, saying that I did not do the tradition and that I was being a bad neighbor. However, I asked some other people about this tradition, and they have heard some people do it, but mostly never really mentioned it to be a recurring thing that each new person in the neighborhood should do. I told Melinda that I would not be throwing a party anytime soon, as I did not feel comfortable with the thought of people coming into my home, let alone me having to entertain them. Melinda got angry, saying that the neighborhood is like a big family, and stormed off. I let it go, but the neighbors that were with Melissa at my house that night have been telling me I should have just done the party and that I am leaving a bad impression. I think my reason is justified, but I am not really sure. So, am I the asshole? Look, a friendly neighborhood community is great and all, but some people, like Melinda, take it way too far. It's ridiculous to get so upset over someone not hosting a party. There's no law that says you have to open your home just because someone volunteered you to. You have done nothing wrong. Stay clear of Melinda. She seems like a troublemaker. Am I the jerk for bailing on taking care of my mother to take care of my family? Let me explain. I, a 51-year-old female, live out of state from where my mother lives. She is now in her 80s and was recently diagnosed with the beginning stages of dementia. My brother, a 64-year-old male, lives in her home. The downstairs of the house is basically a whole other house. He has been living with my mother for over 6 years. During that time, he purchased a completely different home for himself and has been fixing it up since he bought it. During this entire time, he also got married and moved his new wife and her 3 grown children downstairs as well. He has never paid rent to my mother and has contributed minimally to the household bills. My brother frequently travels for work and is not home much. Now, my mother. I love her, but she is super demanding, manipulative, and extremely hard-headed. She cannot drive anymore, so I agreed to come up on the days my brother was traveling to be with her while he is out. I have come up twice in the last 60 days and have found that my mother has a whole system of friends that come and check on her almost every day, in addition to our family friend who runs her to doctor appointments. The issue is my mother is trying to tell me that I need to set up an office so I can be here longer, and knowing that time away from my own family and my husband, who is also ill, is beginning to cause me problems. Instead of helping me with a solution, I am getting offhanded comments like, "You never know what can happen and it's good to have a second place for you up here." I have spoken to 4 different people who are willing to set up a regular schedule to take her to run errands during the week. One friend is willing to move in to help out. My brother has found every excuse not to move to his own house, that is still being fixed up but is livable, so that I can have the downstairs free to have someone else move in and be with my mother. My mother has found every excuse why no one can help her but me. I flat out told both of them I have my own life, my own family, and they are my priority. In light of my brother doing nothing to help the situation and my mother vetoing every solution I come up with, I feel like I'm being manipulated with no end in sight. And still, I feel like an asshole for not being able to take care of her. You are not at fault here. Take care of your own husband and family first. It's like putting your own oxygen mask on before helping others. Your brother and his family live on-site rent-free, so they can help care for her too. Just don't make yourself crazy expecting your brother to step up, and be careful because it sounds like he might raid the bank account or get the will changed to get the house. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling that I won't bully their children for them? My brother was married for 20 years and had 3 children with his first wife, AJ, who passed away 7 months ago at 22 years old. CJ, a 21-year-old male, and Alice, a 19-year-old female. He cheated on his ex-wife, and the affair was discovered when his current wife was pregnant with their second child together. He also had a 20-month-old child at the time the affair was discovered. AJ, CJ, and Alice were still minors at the time, so shared custody was set up, and they spent an equal amount of time with my brother and their mother. The children hated this. They were clear from the moment the affair came to light that they would never accept my brother's other children or his current wife. All 3 went no contact with my brother upon their 18th birthdays and refused all contact. AJ became ill last year, and he passed away 7 months ago. My brother was not told. AJ passed before he learned this. I knew, and so did my younger brother, because we were close to our nephews and niece, and we're still close to our former sister-in-law, who was always like a sister to us. Losing AJ was one of the hardest things. He had so much life ahead of him, and he was about to become a father, something my brother was also unaware of. AJ had prepared for his passing. He had written up a will. Most of everything he had went to his son, who was born 6 weeks after he died. But he shared personal possessions with his siblings, CJ and Alice, and his mother. He made it very clear in his will he was not leaving anything to my brother or my brother's other children. My brother was upset that he was kept in the dark about AJ's illness. Even more so when he found out AJ was expecting a child with his girlfriend, and then more when AJ planned a very private funeral so my brother and his family could not attend. When it came to light AJ left nothing to my brother or the younger children, my brother became more distraught. He reached out to CJ and Alice and asked them if he could have some of AJ's trinkets that he always kept, something he could pass to the other children. They said no way in hell. This is when my brother tried to involve me. He told me to think of my younger niece and nephew, and asked me to convince CJ and Alice to let them have something of AJ's. I told him no. He said I needed to do something because they needed something to remember AJ by. He told me to do whatever it takes. I told him I won't bully his kids for him. He said I was exaggerating, and he never even suggested that. Am I the asshole? You did nothing to be ashamed of. You are respecting your nephew's wishes, which he made explicitly clear. It seems like your brother is using his children to get something that belonged to AJ for himself, rather than genuinely caring about AJ. The siblings who truly knew AJ shouldn't have to give up something valuable to them for kids who had no real connection to him. Your brother needs to accept that and stop pushing the issue. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.